After a long and miserable trek across the desert, the Hebrews finally reached the promised land. Spies are sent out to check things over, and when they return, they give a majority report and a minority report. This story does not sit well with us, God giving the land to them and calling it the promised land when another people already lived in it and had to be conquered for the Hebrews to take over the land. But I'm fascinated by the image that's in the beginning of that story, and that's what I'm going to focus on this morning. So Moses sent these spies out to check the place out, and when the spies return, they don't agree. A faith community that doesn't agree, can you imagine such a thing? The minority report, which is submitted by Joshua and Caleb, says, we can go ahead. We can do God's will. If we don't lose hope, we can do it. The majority report says something else. It speaks of giants in the land. We seem to ourselves like grasshoppers, and so we seem to them. Predictably, the people accepted the majority report, and they weep and wail and wonder how they can get back to Egypt. When Caleb and Joshua again say, the Lord is with us, all the people can think of to do is stone them. This ancient story seems to me to speak of our situation. We see what is happening in our nation, and we want to do something, but what? Our leaders and their wealthy supporters are like giants, and we feel like grasshoppers, powerless grasshoppers. We hope for the best, but we don't expect it. The poet Wendell Berry writes, it is hard to have hope. It is harder as you grow old. It is hard indeed to have hope. In fact, if you express something hopeful about our situation in our nation today, you're accused of either being naive or ignorant. First, let's be clear about how we're defining hope. Hope is not a wishy-washy response like when someone says, so did they fix your car? And you respond, well, I hope so, which means maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Hope, really, we use that word to mean hopeless, such as when we say there's nothing left to do but hope. And there are frivolous uses of hope. I hope I win the lottery. But hope does not depend on something outside ourselves. Winning the lottery, getting the car fixed, those depend on something outside of ourselves. Hope does not depend on someone else doing something. Hope is the capacity to face reality, no matter how difficult it is, and still seek whatever good is possible. Hope is not a wish. It's an energy field. And we choose whether to live within that field or not. Hope takes Einstein's words seriously. Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking with which we created them. Hope is making a down payment on tomorrow. I have sat many times, as you have, I'm sure, with friends or colleagues who get to talking about the current political realities, and I share their fear and their despair. But what catches my attention is the glaring absence of hope. We talk about what's happening, but what we achieve in those kind of conversations is to spread despair and hopelessness. Truly, despair is more contagious than COVID. Having hope doesn't mean you deny how challenging things are. Pretending everything is fine doesn't help. Everything is not fine. There are giants in the land. But fear distorts the truth, not by overestimating the problems, but by underestimating our ability to deal with them. When I'm in one of those conversations about the state of the world, those conversations that are so full of despair, I am not motivated to act. I'm not motivated to help solve the problem. I become numb. Such hopeless conversations make me feel like a grasshopper surrounded by giants. Of course, we are going to feel despair at times. It doesn't mean it's wrong to have feelings of despair. It's whether or not we park there, whether or not we decide that's where we're going to stay. Despair paralyzes us. Hope energizes us, empowers us. Rabbi Rami Shapiro writes a regular column in a magazine called Spirituality and Health. And in one issue, he writes that the Talmud, which is a collection of wisdom from rabbis over many centuries, the Talmud says that there are 4 questions that each one of us will be asked at the moment of our death. The first 3 deal with wisdom and love and honesty. And this is the 4th one. Did you yield to hope more often than you gave in to despair? Our desert, Thomas Merton, the monk, wrote, our desert, our challenge is to face despair and not consent. I have faced despair and I do not consent. I think I first began to value this position, refusing to give in to despair, when I had to deal with a serious illness. I suddenly had to deal with all those unwanted things that go with illness, changes and challenges and limitations and losses. I had to decide whether I would face this new reality with hope or with despair. The kind of hope that we're talking about in faith circles, the hope that's not, I hope I win the lottery, but deeper than that, it's about trust. It's about trust that however things unfold, we have not yet run out of grace. Spirit is still at work. A little girl was playing left field in a softball game, and it was the top of the 9th inning. The game was almost over. Someone yelled over the fence, "Hey, outfielder, who's winning?" "We are," the girl shouted. "What's the score?" "They're ahead 23-0. 23-0. I thought you said you were winning. "Yeah, but we haven't come up to bat yet." That's hope. Another image of hope comes from what Nikki read from Habakkuk. Though the fig tree does not blossom and there's no fruit on the vines, though the fields yield no food and the flock is cut off from the fold and there is no herd in the stalls, yet I will still rejoice in the Lord. Hope does not depend on outcome. Hope is about acceptance and agency, the ability to do things, and power. The illness that I have is not my choice, but my response to it is. The problems that come to us out of Washington are not in our control, but how we deal with them is. And where do we find this kind of hope? I find it in my faith, for one thing. My faith as a Christian is, the foundation of my faith is the story of the resurrection. And there are infinite ways to understand that resurrection. But however you understand it, at the very least, it is a story about hope. Community is another place that I get what I need to deal with what sometimes feels hopeless. People and places that are models, that model hope for me. Who, when the evening news causes me to be overwhelmed with despair, reminds me to choose hope. And I can't hang on to hope alone. And so thank God I have you. For you are the place, you are the people who show me, who remind me how to face despair and not consent. You remind me how to work in the midst of darkness and be a light. You remind me how to wade right into the problems, right into the discouragement and the defeat, and still trust that Spirit is at work. The spiritual writer Paula Darcy, after enduring a great tragedy in her life, wrote, "God expects me to stare at nothing but darkness and believe in light." You are the people who help me believe in light. I thank you for that. As people of faith, it seems to me we're called to practice the politics of hope. In this gloom and doom and cynical period of our history, our job, I think, is to carry hope like a candle against the wind. The ancient legend of Camelot was made into a Broadway musical some years ago, and in the final scene, King Arthur sits alone in the forest. He has lost everything that matters to him. Those he most loves have betrayed him. He is about to go to war with his best friend, Sir Lancelot, and his dream of a city where everybody lives with respect and honesty and care, that dream is shattered. King Arthur's heart is broken. But then suddenly a young boy, maybe about 12 or so, finds Arthur sitting in this despairing state in the forest, and he goes up to Arthur and he says, I've come to join Camelot. He wants to help build this kingdom where trust and respect and love and goodness prevail. He wants to be a knight of the Round Table. Suddenly Arthur's dream about a place, a realm of integrity and goodness and right, that dream is still alive. And Arthur says, kneel, quick boy, kneel. He takes his mighty sword, Excalibur, and he places the flat side of the blade on each of the boy's shoulders. And he says, I dub thee, Sir John, Knight of the Round Table. Go back home, my son. Go back home and tell everyone that Camelot is still possible. Run, Sir John, run. Tell the world it's still possible. Tell everyone that hope is still alive. I suspect that is our call also, to remind each other that we are not grasshoppers. We are a people of the resurrection. We practice the politics of hope, and we are strong enough to face giants. In this time of despair, it is our job to tell everyone hope is still alive. Amen. Listen.